I really think that Shane brought Rick out into the woods to make him take this final step. I think that, you know, there was an alternate, I can't speak today for some freaking reason. There's an alternate ending that I pitched, and we almost got, but we didn't get it. Which, if you want to hear it, I'll tell you. So, I'm gonna get in trouble because I keep, anyways, I'm off the show now, so. So the idea that we had was, and I think in a pretty cool way, ended up kind of playing a little bit, but the idea that we pitched is that everything happened the exact same way, but when Rick and Shane, as soon as Shane talks to Lori and she tells him thank you, that's sort of everything that Shane wanted to hear from Lori by the windmill there. And then, but Shane still knows that he's got to get rid of this prisoner, Randall, to keep Carl and Lori and his unborn baby safe. So, so he's got to kill this prisoner. So he takes the prisoner out of the woods, he snaps his neck, he comes back, same exact thing that happened in the show. And you know, when I'm telling you this story, it's like I pitch it to the writer, so you got to make as few changes as possible because you don't want them to have to do too much. But so you keep it the exact same way, and then when Shane comes back and says the prisoner escaped, he and Rick go looking for the prisoner, the same thing that happened. Shane and Rick are looking in the woods for the prisoner, all of a sudden Shane stops. Rick says, why are you stopping? We gotta find the prisoner. Same as what happened in the show, and Shane says, no we don't, I killed the prisoner, I snapped his neck, that's what you should have done. And Rick says, what are you talking about? And Shane draws his gun, same as in the show, points his gun at Rick. It says, come on, be a man, you know, I'm right here, let's fight for Lori, let's fight for Carl, I'm the father, all that kind of stuff. And as in the show, Rick takes his gun and says, I'm not gonna fight you, man, you're my brother, I'm not gonna go there. And this is the first change. Instead of holding his gun out, he says, hey look, you're gonna have to shoot an unarmed man, and he throws his gun. This makes Shane go crazy, so Shane approaches Rick, puts the gun right up to Rick's face and says, you know, you've got a broken boy and a broken woman and a weak boy and all that stuff, and he really pushes to say something disgusting like, I know what your wife tastes like, or something like that, to really push Rick, because he's really gone off the deep end, and he's pushing him, and then as in what happened, Rick stabs old Shane in the stomach, and he falls down on the ground. As Shane starts to reanimate into a zombie, he starts to get up, but now remember that change I said, Rick is throwing his gun. So when Shane starts to pop up as a zombie, Rick grabs Shane's gun, which is right there, and points it at zombie Shane, as zombie Shane's coming towards Rick. And Rick points a gun at Shane, and it just goes click, click, click. Then out of nowhere, Carl blasts him, and Rick looks at the gun, and he sees that the gun was never loaded. And so Shane brought Rick out to that woods to make him kill him. And see how we're getting kind of a half applause? That's sort of what I got from the rest. But what's cool about it is I'm glad they did it the way they did, because I think that all of that was sort of incorporated, and I really believe that Shane really didn't have it in him to kill Rick and to take Carl's father from him and take Lori's husband from him, and I think, you know, Shane got so far gone that there was a part of him that knew that he was really kind of becoming a cancer for the group, and he had to be taken out, and I don't think you point a gun at Rick Grimes unless you're ready to use it, so, you know, anyway, that's my alternate ending.
We'll go ahead and start with questions from the audience.
Right on.
I have a question for Sean about how was it like working with all the zombies?
How is it working with the zombies? Oh man, look, I hate zombies, man. I don't want you to think I'm like some douchey method actor, but like I spent so long running from them and trying to kill them that I think I just sort of ended up really hating them. I love the people that play zombies. You know, they're great actors and they work really hard, and you know, it's the show would not be the show if it weren't for the level of amazing talent from Greg Nicotero and the staff that make the zombies and the performers that play them. They're unbelievably committed, and it's kind of cool, you know, sitting there and eating lunch with a bunch of zombies, you know. So I love those guys, but I hate zombies.
Next question.
How would you like playing the badass on Walking Dead?
You know, man, it was cool. You know, he's a great character, and an honor to play him. You know, I love that role. I wanted desperately to play that part. You know, I'm relatively new as an actor, and it was the first year. It was the first year for me where I had turned down other shows that I had got because I hadn't been able to audition for The Walking Dead, which is a pretty stupid risk as an actor. I would not suggest that if you're going into the field. But I told my agents that, you know, I had to try for this show because I'd never read anything like it, and I'm glad that I did. So it was an honor to play him. And I think what's so cool about that show is everyone there realizes how lucky they are to be there. There's no jerks on that show, and everybody realizes how special a story it is, and it was the honor of my career so far to play Shane, and I loved it. Thank you. I read comic books. Well, what happened was, you know, like I said, I wanted desperately to be in this show, but I had not read the comic books, and then I fought to get that part, you know, like 6 auditions and kept fighting, and I kept hearing, yeah, maybe, then I finally got it. And they said, oh, by the way, it's based on this comic book, hand me the comic book. I went home, cracked that sucker open, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, just, you know, by the time it was like, you know, I ate like 1 sandwich. By the time the sandwich was done, he was dead, you know what I mean? But I'm glad that they decided to let him stick around a little bit longer.
And for the walking talk you did last night, they decided to keep Lori around as a breeder.
As a breeder. Wow.
And then my question was, for season 2, when Shane starts losing his mind,
Yeah.
did you decide, or did everyone else decide for you to shave off your head after the incident?
You know, it was something that Frank Darabont, the original, you know, the creator of the show, we said from the beginning. You know, when I first auditioned for the show, I was like, you know, long-haired hippie, man. I used to have hair down to here, and I was auditioning for the show like that. And I remember at the screen test, Frank was like, oh wow, we could have used that on I wish I had shot that, we could have used that take, and except then I would have killed myself for hiring a beach pirate as Shane. Because I had this like long, crazy hair, and that's just, you know, kind of how I roll, you know, but you know, when we were trying to decide how he was gonna look, I was like, oh, let's shave his head, let's make him, you know, super badass with the, you know, and Frank was like, you know what, let's work to that. And so I think right from the beginning, he sort of saw that there'd be an evolution, and it's really cool as an actor when you get to go through a change, and then they give you the opportunity to not only change internally, but make a physical change, and a haircut's a really easy way to do that. So it was, I was really psyched for it, and it was a real way of kind of like cementing the final change that's going on in this guy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John, my name is Sean. We actually had breakfast together a year and a half ago when you were out at the amazing Comicon.
Oh, right on, man.
Right on, the guy had to help bring.
We had breakfast together?
Right, me, you, Melissa, and Robert. And
Oh, very cool, man. Very cool, right on.
And I guess the question that I have for you is, what are some of the subtle differences between working with Frank and working with Greg once he kind of took over?
With Glenn?
With Greg Nicotero.
Oh, the differences between working
with Darabont, and then once all of a sudden he was.
Well, Greg's not, you know, Greg didn't take Frank's place. Glenn did. Glenn was
Glenn,
yeah. So are you asking about Frank and Glenn?
Yeah. Yes.
The subtle differences. Shoot, man. Man, could this question get me in trouble? You look, man, I don't know how to be, you know, here's the thing, you know, I think that, you know, Frank Darabont, look, he wrote and directed Shawshank Redemption. He you know, he wrote and directed the Green Mile, you know, The Mist, you know, he's Frank Darabont is, you know, I mean, I think he's one of the best. He's one of the best filmmakers and writers our country has. I think I think that Frank brought everyone that is on the television show The Walking Dead to The Walking Dead. So I think that it's really, especially with television, the creator, the showrunner, is really the entire kind of it's such a lame word, but like the flavor of the show, like everything from the music to the look to the cast to the way the thing is shot to the kind of film you shoot on to the way the zombies look. That all kind of comes down to the taste of one man. So this one guy kind of created this. So I think with Glenn's awesome. I mean, he is a great showrunner in his own right. But I think what he's really trying to do is maintain the integrity and quality that Frank brought to the show. It was a huge blow to everybody to lose Frank, and I think one of the main things that Glenn had to do coming on was to sort of keep everybody together, keep everybody's spirits up, because again, man, it's like everybody signed on to do the show with Frank, and he's one of the best. So then when we lost him, it was there's a lot of bad feelings surrounding that, but I think the show is in great shape, and I think they're moving forward beautifully, and look, I'm doing Frank's new show. That's what I'm doing now, and he's my boss, and I love him, but thank you. I still talk to the guys down in Georgia. It's unbelievable because like Jeff DeMunn, played Dale, who is the man. He's right on Jeff DeMunn. He came on to do Frank's new show with me. Andy Rothenberg, who played Jim in The Walking Dead, he came on to do with me. A lot of the crew members from The Walking Dead came on to do LA Noir with Frank as well. So it's really kind of like this big family with obviously this huge fracture in the middle. But I've been talking to the guys down in Georgia. I talk to Andy Lincoln all the time, Sarah, Norman Reedus, Steve Young, they're my family, and I'm gonna love them forever. And things are going great down there, and they're having a great time. And season 3 is gonna be badass. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi. So there's one scene. I forget which episode it is, but it's actually two scenes. There's this sort of semi-beautiful artistic scene with this zombie in a suit. Walking through his head.
How cool is that, right?
Yeah, so what's going through Shane's, is there something that clicks with him in that moment? How did that scene come about?
It's funny. They ended up using that. There was a scene from the very first episode of season 2 never got aired. And what they did is they ended up using about a quarter of it and then combining it with episode 2, and they made that premiere an hour and a half. So we ended up actually shooting 14 episodes this year, but only airing 13. So what they did was, in the very beginning of season 1, which is something that never aired that you never saw, was it picked up right when we were leaving the CDC from last year. So the thing was blowing up and we were all leaving, and we were pulling out in our caravan, and Shane was in the back in his little Jeep, and the Jeep actually runs out of gas. And there's this shot of everybody kind of leaving, and he starts hitting his horn, he starts screaming like, Rick, and they all just left Shane's ass there. So I was like, good, and that's how the season started. So Shane, as he's screaming and screaming, what does screaming do? It attracts zombies. He looks behind him, and there was like 300 zombies all coming up to the Jeep. So Shane looks around, he grabs a shotgun, and he just starts running. And this was gonna be the opening of season 2. So these zombies were chasing me down the road, and what sucked was it was about 103 degrees that day, and I had to run from zombies the whole time, and I had to keep on falling and getting up, because what was discovered in that is that zombies never get tired. So the whole thing was that I was running for miles and miles and miles, but these zombies kept their pace, and slowly they were gaining on me, and I kept falling and getting up. And right when they were about to get on me, I turned around and I started blasting them, and then I ran out of bullets and they were about to get me, and then all of a sudden, the RV comes slamming through and runs over about 30 zombies, and Rick's there, and he grabs me into the RV and he saves my life. And that's how season 2 was gonna start. And we shot that, but it never aired. So what they were gonna do with the shot that you're talking about, with me just staring off, was because it was right after he came back and rescued me when I was in the school bus. So there was a scene that we shot that they were going to end up airing in that episode that you're talking about, in place of me looking at the guy in the field, which was going to be a flashback to the day where he saved me in the RV. And I said to him, you know, thanks for saving me, brother. And he says, I'll never leave you behind. And they ended up not using that. I don't know why, but they didn't. And so I think what that was supposed to, so they you know, the lone zombie, I think, was, you know, the way, what was going through my head when we actually shot it was really just, you know, kind of like it was just to like kind of look at the hopelessness of this world. And I think the kind of loneliness of Shane's character, I mean, that's sort of the key of who this guy is, at least to me. And man, I'm just rambling, aren't I? I apologize for that. But I mean, like, you know, for me, that's kind of the key with Shane is he's an unbelievably lonely guy, because I think there's two kinds of loneliness in this world. There's the loneliness that you suffer when you're really far away from the people you love, but there's another kind of loneliness when the people you love are right there with you, but you can't be with them the way you want to. And I think we all know that kind of loneliness, and I think that's the kind of loneliness that can drive you to do unbelievably wonderful things, like go and shoot old Otis and save a little boy's life, or it can drive you to doing pretty awful, crazy things. And I think that's eventually what happened with Shane.
Thank you. That's good.
Rock and roll, man.
Okay.
Okay.
When you're on the show, who's your favorite person to work with?
Wow. You know, there's so many. Shoot, that's a great question, bud. I really love them all in different ways. Andy Lincoln is like my partner, man. I love that guy. I love him so much, and he's as good a guy as he is an actor. You know, Sarah Wayne Callies is wonderful. You know, Norman's my man. I love them all, you know. I really love them all. Jeff DeMunn is just incredible. It's pretty weird. We're shooting LA Noir right now, and it's pretty cool being in, thank you. It's pretty cool being in a scene with him, and all of a sudden I was like, what's up, Dale? He's like, shut up, Shane. I love working with him too, but I like them all, man. I really do. We really, again, got lucky on this job. Everybody's really game. I remember when Norman Reedus' first day on set was in season 1, when he showed up and like threw the squirrels at Rick, and I had to like wrestle his ass down. And, you know, we hadn't met yet. We met and we were about to wrestle, and I was like, hey man, I'm gonna really grab you. He's like, oh, he's like, grab away, dude. And I was like, my man, okay. And then, you know, he was just game as hell. We were like, if we're gonna use like, look, if we're gonna fight, let's fight. And I said, awesome. And you know, that's the kind of actor that's on this show. You know, there's no stunt guys. There's no, you know, we do it all ourselves, and it's you're either that kind of actor, or you're the kind of actor who likes to kick it in your trailer, and they don't really make it on our show. So it's cool. I love them all.
Thanks.
Sorry, but I didn't really answer your question, but I appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I don't know if Shane is your favorite character, but who is your favorite character on The Walking Dead, and why?
Besides Shane?
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta love Daryl, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta love Daryl. Glenn, yeah, Glenn's cool. I love Glenn. But he does like, yeah. He's like, but Daryl. I think Daryl. You know what I mean? I like Daryl. I like him a lot. I really wish that Shane and I wish that friendship and or that possibility of a relationship was explored a little bit more. Yeah.
What about Lori?
What about Lori?
You already been there.
You know, I love her, but in a different way. I mean,
Thank you.
First, I'd like to say that your character was totally my favorite.
Thanks, man.
I never read the comic watching the show. I think they should have called it The Walking Dead featuring Shane. Something cool like that, because But unfortunately, your character died,
Yeah.
reanimated, and then died again.
He sure did.
That being said, you kind of answered the question that I'd already had about if you were working, which I'm glad to hear that you are. You have a new series coming out?
Sure.
What network is that going to be on?
TNT.
Sweet. And cool, thank you very much. That was it. Is it close to finished on production?
No, we're right in the middle. I mean, next I have this movie called Snitch coming out, which is going to be really cool. It's like me and Dwayne Johnson and Susan Sarandon. And,
I'll see it.
yeah, you'll dig it. It's a really, really cool movie. And I will say, trying to throw the rock around is quite different than trying to throw anything around. Just you know what I mean?
Yeah. Thank you very much for being awesome.
Rock and roll, man. I appreciate you, man.
To answer your question, Ella and Noir, production notes say that it's going to be out sometime in 2013. Early 2013 is when they are announcing it.
Right on. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Angie, and I'm probably going to ask a question that not everybody, but a few people are probably wondering. Who do you personally think is the father of Lori's baby?
Shane.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bianca,
Hi.
and as you can see, I'm dressed as Daryl.
Oh shit. Oh, I'm sorry for cursing. Yeah. You got the squirrels. Who throws squirrels, by the way? I'm like, this guy's awesome.
And my question is, do you ever get flattered or excited when your fans or any of the Walking Dead fans dress as the characters of The Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah. And I saw a few people yesterday have the 22 chain, which I thought was like the coolest thing ever. You know what I mean? And look, you know, I love the show. I'm a huge fan of the show, and again, everybody who's involved with it, everybody who works on that crew, every actor that's there, we all really love the show. I mean, there's nothing like being on a show when you're driving into work and the Teamsters are driving you and they've all read the script and they're like, you know, in that scene, I think you're really being a jerk. You know, everybody has opinions on it and everybody is so excited to be there. So, you know, when I see, it's just like, it's so cool that people dig it. I think the Walking Dead fans are like the coolest, smartest, most badass fans in the world. We love it so much, and the fact that there's this passionate, awesome audience for it, and people dress like the characters is just super. It's awesome. It's awesome, and I'll really miss that. Like I'll really miss not only being the show, but being able to kick it with Walking Dead fans. You know, it's like it's awesome.
All right, thank you.
Right on.
So in season 2, when you and Otis are running away from a mob of zombies,
Yeah.
and you're gonna shoot Otis. As a person, would you shoot Otis or would you do anything differently?
You gotta save the boy, right? I mean, you gotta save the kid. You know what I mean? You gotta save the kid. And I mean, look, that's what's so cool about Shane. You know, it's like he does what needs to be done, and it's a zombie apocalypse, man. You know, it's not. You know, I don't think, you know, it's weird. People think I'm freaking nuts and my mom gets mad at me all the time. So you gotta understand, you know, I take so much crap from my family, you know. Like, my grandmother calls me out and she's like, John, what are you doing? You know, I mean, she like rips me apart for the things I do on TV. But I gotta say, you know, I don't know whether it's my job or whether I'm just psychotic and I've like convinced myself, but I don't think there's anything that bad about what he did to poor old Otis. I mean, he said to Otis, he was like, here man, take the bags, go on without me. And Otis was like, I'm not leaving you behind. And Shane's like, dude, we gotta save it. It's not about me, it's about Carl. And then he saw that Otis wasn't gonna do it, so kind of dawns on him like he would make a pretty big meal, you know what I mean? So, save me some time, so let's do it, you know? And Say what? Yeah, but the thing is, if you think about it, if I shot him in the head, he'd just be like, I wanted him to also be like, he's like Otis is like a giant, like, all-you-can-eat buffet. What do you want? Like, you know, it's a great advertising, him like screaming, being like, ah! And then all the zombies would come to him. So I thought it was a really smart move, you know? Like, silencing him, you know? I don't know, I thought it was a good smart move, and I was impressed with Shane in that. I'm gonna hear it from my grandma.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, bud. But don't shoot anybody, man, and I don't act like you know what I mean? Hi, Sherry, how are you? All right.
Well, first, I wanted to say you made a comment about, you know, how you're not going to be able to hang out with all the Walking Dead people, you know, all the fans. That's a lie. We're all still going to love you. No matter what.
Thank you. Thank you,
I wanted to know, how did you manage to get into such a dark character like Shane?
You know, it's a good. You know, when actors talk about this, they sound. Look, I really love acting. Like I love it. It kind of saved my life. You know, I was a real troublesome youngster, and I wound up in a lot of trouble, and it really steered me in a different direction. So again, not to sound like a pretentious jerk, but I care about it a lot. So you know, I hope I'm not too much of a weirdo, but I really kind of dive in all the way. And you know, when I was doing Shane, especially last year, you know, season 2, you know, I lived by myself about an hour and a half away from everyone else in a house in the woods. And you know, when I left set, I didn't talk to anybody until I got back to set the next day. I tried to make sure I was 100% alone all the time. And you know, you gotta, again, you know, I sound like a weirdo, but you gotta go to some pretty dark places, and it's the kind of show where everybody there, because everybody knows how lucky they are to be there, everybody really supports kind of going for it. I remember when we were shooting season 1, I remember, you know, we were so new, we had no idea if the show was gonna work. If it wasn't gonna work, we just knew like, oh, this is so cool, we're working on this really awesome script down in Georgia. And Andy and I were just kind of getting to know each other, and I had shot a scene, and we were about to do the scene where he wakes up in the hospital and sees he wakes up to Armageddon. And I was going to this trailer to go say goodbye to him because I was done for the day, and I saw him walking around in his underwear. I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this, but anyway, I saw him walking around in his boxers, you know, in full makeup, you know, and he was just sitting there walking, screaming to, like, ah! Like screaming to himself, just walking in circles. And I was like, I'm gonna say goodbye to him tomorrow, you know? But like right then I saw, okay, this job, like you can do that. No one's gonna look at you and be like, you know, we have a job to do. No one's gonna look at you and be like, oh, that guy's weird. Everybody is kind of like that all the time. Like, let's just get into it. Let's just be in that world and go for it and pretend hard, you know what I mean, as best you can. And it's the only way now I want to work, and I'm so grateful that like that environment there kind of fosters that. But yeah, I just went to some really dark places, and instead of, you know, I tried to live there, you know, and shoot, I mean.
You try to depress yourself?
Did I try to what?
You try to make yourself depressed?
I don't know if it's more I think Shane's got an enormous chip on his shoulder. You know, I think that he feels that he's done all that the very act of the most selfless thing, the most loyal thing he's ever done in his life has alienated him to the point and made him so lonely. It's because he tried to do such a wonderful thing for his friend has made him now in this place where he's alone and it's forced him to do things that he hates that he's done. He hates who he's become, but he totally did it for his friend, and now his freaking friend is back, you know, and it's like, you know, everything's gotten all twisted. So I don't think it's about depression. I think there's like a lot of rage, there's a lot of regret, there's a lot of making up excuses in your head, and you know, I had a lot of loneliness, you know.
Well, congrats on your new show.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Hi, John.
Hey, what's up?
First, I was hoping to hear a little bit more about the premise of your new show.
Okay.
And then second, I was thinking this morning about how the people at cons are always, going to the con thinking, what can I get today? What can I get? What's in it for me? And I was thinking, maybe we could do something for you. I know actors like accolades, so on behalf of the people of Phoenix, I wanted to present you with this zombie foot as a way to say thank you for your work on The Walking Dead.
Oh, thank you, man. That's a great. Oh, right on. Thanks, John. That's badass, man. Thank you. Right on, man. Phoenix is awesome. Where'd he go? Oh, there. Right on, man. Thank you, bro. The new show is called LA Noir, and it is about LA in the late 40s. I play a guy named Joe Teague, who is a Marine who fought on Guadalcanal, and he lost almost everyone in his unit. He's a gunnery sergeant. He really, really went through it. Saw all kinds of darkness. He comes back to LA, and LA at that time was totally overrun with the mob. And Bugsy Siegel and Mickey Cohen were just running rampant, murders everywhere. It was a really, really dark time in LA, and you had a very corrupt police force. And so I play this ex-Marine who's now a detective at the LAPD, who sort of works on both sides of the law to create his own style of justice. But like I said, it's Frank Darabont, did Shawshank and the Green Mile. It is going to be a dark, badass show, and the same world as the video. I know there's a lot of fans of the video game here, and it's really cool, and it's based on a nonfiction book. So basically, what it is it's going to be all of these. Every character in it is real, except for Joe, except for this main guy. Basically, sort of like Forrest Gump was accidentally a part of all these things in history. This guy Joe is going to be put into all these very real historical situations, and a lot of mobsters, a lot of cops, a lot of pretty gnarly stuff. So I hope you guys dig it.
Awesome.